For my kids, your grandkids, my good friend, and one of the greatest senators the state of Texas has ever God bless Texas. So I gotta say, it's great to be in the state of Idaho. Brian, your Amarillo idea is not bad.
Kind of whack.
Well, I will say, you're right that Joe Biden recently confused Zelensky with Putin. He also said that his current vice president is Donald Trump. So in honor of our president, I want to thank Ken Paxton for that great introduction. Look, there comes a point where you take the car keys away from Grandpa. Particularly when they're attached to an ICBM. Look, I'm actually just going to talk for a few minutes. What I'm going to do most of this morning is just open it up to Q&A. Because I'm looking around the room, a room full of workers.
Yeah.
But the two things I want to say just to start off with is, number one, the stakes in this election, they've never been higher. Look, we've all been through, every 2 years, politicians get up and say, this election's the most important election in the history of the universe. But holy cow! Like, the world has gone nuts. You know, I look at Washington, I think 12 years ago when y'all first sent me to the Senate. I got there and there were some moderate Democrats. All right, when I got there was one open socialist in the Democrat Party, Bernie Sanders. Crazy Uncle Bernie. White hair sticking straight up. By the way, would it kill the guy to comb his hair? I mean, look, he's a socialist. He can just take your comb. But he was literally, he was the only one. And all the Democrats, they'd be like, no, we're not socialists. We're not with him. They're all socialists now. Every one of them. Look, Donald Trump got elected president in 2016, and he broke the brains of the Democrats. And they just went to crazy town on every single issue.
They already live there.
They owned it. They set up permanent residence there. I mean, it is. All right, on every issue, the border. We know the border well. Look, it was like 12 minutes ago that you could get Democrats to actually agree securing the border made sense. Go watch old speeches from Joe Biden, from Chuck Schumer, from Barack Obama, from Hillary Clinton. They all talked about securing the border. We've never had a president in our nation's history do what Joe Biden has done. None. By the way, I will say, Joe Biden did something that I actually thought was impossible. He made me miss Barack Obama. Like, holy cow, I disagreed with Obama on a lot. But you know, when it came to immigration, Obama, by and large, followed the law. He actually deported millions of people. Remember the left got mad at Obama? They called him the deporter-in-chief. What Biden has done has never happened in the history of the country, that when someone is apprehended, they just let them go. They just turn around and let them go. Our Constitution is not meant, it is not built for an executive who just utterly ignores the law. That's never happened. Look, you look at issues like defunding the police or abolishing the police. 5 years ago, if I'd have stood up and said the Democrats want to abolish the police, people would have said, that's just nuts. Come on, don't be using that kind of extremist rhetoric. Joe Biden has nominated not one, not two, but three of the leading advocates of abolishing the police to senior positions of the U.S. Department of Justice. When all three of them came to the Senate floor, you know how many Democrats voted against them? Zero. Not a single one. You look at things like judges. Barack Obama put some terrible judges on the bench. But I've spent the last 4 years longing for Obama judges. They were just radicals. These people are nuts. Like Biden is going out and seeking judicial nominees. Now, I will say at hearings, I do occasionally try to gently question them. And I will tell you, by the way, we just had a big victory a week ago.
Yeah.
So one of the most extreme nominees, the judicial nominee out of New York, the magistrate judge, who had in front of her a criminal defendant. Criminal defendant, 6'2", is a repeat child rapist. Serial rapist, over and over and over again. By the way, he raped boys and he raped girls. At 52 years old, this 6'2" dude decided he was a sheep. And he's going back to jail. And he went in front and he said, look, I'm sorry, I'm a girl now, I'd like to go to women's prison. And this judge says, sounds good to me. The hearing, I asked her, I said, look, do women have any rights at all?
Not anymore. Nope.
I asked, how would you feel if it was your sister, or your daughter, or your mom, who, God forbid, had committed a crime, was in jail, and she discovers her cellmate is a 6'2" dude who's a child rapist? Well, we had the markup last week on the vote, and it was expected to be just a party line vote. And I lit into the Democrats. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Said, look, I recognize you guys all represent bright blue states. But I don't care what state it is. I don't care if it's New York or Vermont or New Jersey or Connecticut or Rhode Island or California. Those are the Democrats on judiciary. Said, I promise you, in any one of your states, go get a group of your citizens together and say, hey, 6'2" dude, serial rapist. Good idea to put him in women's prison?
They'll all say no. Yeah.
I said, I promise you they don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the day of the markup, the news broke. But you know where he was sentenced, by the way? He was sent to Fort Worth, Texas. This New York judge sent him to a women's prison in Fort Worth, Texas. The day of the markup, the news broke that he had been put in administrative segregation for waving his genitalia around at the women. I do have to admit, as an aside, my dear friend Mike Lee spoke fairly graphically about what this guy had done. And I love Mike, but I just love it, as a good Mormon boy, like hearing him explain that. I'm like, Mike, a little less detail, please. Inference is just fine. Don't paint a picture. But we go to the vote. And listen, every vote in judiciary is party line. These guys, it's like the Politburo. They vote for whatever they're supposed to. Well, it goes down, and every one of them, And then right at the end, John Ossoff from Georgia goes, no. And Dick Durbin, the chairman, his head goes. And we're all sitting there going, excuse me, what was that? And we voted her down. The Democrats did not expect that. I think that illustrates, look, they've gotten so crazy. What we've got to do is real simple. We just got to tell people the truth.
Yes.
You know, there's a simple dynamic in politics. Conservatives win when we effectively articulate what we believe.
Yes.
And liberals win when they effectively obfuscate what they believe. Now, I am really, really glad I'm not a Democrat. For one of the things, as Heidi has told me, I am a really bad liar. I just am. It's not in me. I'm not wired that way. And if you're a Democrat, look, you want to wonder why Democrats are so unhappy? Look, if you had to sell that ridiculous pile of steaming craft, you'd be unhappy too. Listen, we're talking about a party that doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman. To be clear, that didn't used to be a trick question. Like for all of recorded history, go back to a caveman, pull him out of his cave. Sir, do you know what a woman is? Yep. Yeah, I do. Look, one right there. Yeah, that's a woman. And sell you insurance. And by the way, they're all lying. Every one of them knows they're lying. All right, I can prove it. I can prove to you right now that Joe Biden knows what a woman is. He only sniffs the hair of girls. Never once have I seen Joe Biden come up to Chuck Schumer and start sniffing his hair. And I am even more certain that Bill Clinton knows what a woman is. So listen, I will say, the stakes in this election, they've never been as high as they are right now. We've seen, by the way, it is not healthy to have one of our two major political parties be utterly insane. To have a functioning democracy, you need two parties somewhere in the realm of reasonableness able to have a conversation with each other.
Amen.
These people are moonbat crazy. And I gotta say, our country, I believe, is teetering at the edge of a precipice.
That's right.
Look, by the way, how do you correct it? The only way to correct it is have an absolute clobbering in November.
Yes.
Too big to read.
Too big to read. Too big to read. Too big to read.
Listen, we need the Democrat Party to have a reassessment. And if you think about the last time they did that, go back to the 1980s, and you had Reagan, Bush, and the Democrats lost 12 years in a row. And they nominated Jimmy Carter. I guess he was the president. By the way, today, I promise you, Jimmy Carter is sitting in Georgia going, yes, not worst president ever.
I can die.
But they started with Jimmy Carter. Then they went to Walter Mondale. And you remember Walter Mondale in the course of the debates, he was the last president who, like Joe Biden, said he was going to raise taxes. You remember the debate, Mondale standing on the debate stage said, both of us here are going to raise taxes. The difference is, he won't tell you, I just did. Mondale lost 49 states. And by the way, after that, if you remember, after he lost 49 states, he ran for Senate in Minnesota and lost. And I have to admit, as soon as that happened, I said, hot diggity damn, that makes 50. He was the only one he'd won. And then he went and lost that one too. By the way, it's a great political bar bet, which I've asked people all the time, who's the only major candidate in history to lose statewide in all 50 states? And if you phrase it that way, the answer is Walter Mondale. Nobody gets it because it's over 2 elections. But that was Mondale. And then in '88, they went with Michael Dukakis. Who really looked cute in a tank. And to be clear, after getting clobbered 3 times in a row, what did the Democrat Party do? Said, we need to reassess. And they moved to the middle and they nominated Bill Clinton. And I was not a Bill Clinton fan, but Bill Clinton seems positively sane compared to the lunatics in Washington right now. If you want to see this country move back to normalcy, what has got to happen is the Democrats have to get clobbered. They need to lose the White House. They need to lose the Senate. They need to lose the House. And the second thing I want to tell you guys is Texas is a battlefield. Listen, it's easy to be complacent. One of the real mistakes people make in politics is they have a recency bias. They say, well, whatever things have been recently, that's what they got to be forever. Think 50 years ago. 50 years ago, California was the heart of the Republican Party. It had given us Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, and it had voted Republican in 6 consecutive presidential elections.
Wow.
By the way, you know what changed that? What changed that was in 1987, Congress granted amnesty, made 3 million illegal immigrants American citizens and voters, and '88 was the last election California ever voted Republican. Same time that California was the heart of the Republican Party, Texas had been Democrat for 100 years.
That's right.
So it's easy to think, all right, Texas, we're big, but we're bold, we're red, that can never change. It can change, and it can change fast. And let me tell you, the forces of evil have set their targets on Texas. All right, think back to COVID. COVID, imagine how different COVID would have been without Texas and without Florida. Like, these idiots would still be shut down. Look, in the Senate, Bernie Sanders still walks around with a damn mask on. When I see Democrats doing that, I'm like, hey, that's great, but it's not working. I can still hear you. Let me just tighten it up for you. By the way, have you all noticed when you fly at airports, there's still some people wearing masks? Yes. And I'm really grateful for that. It's not many of them, but it's self-identifying. I'm like, oh good, you're a crazy person. I appreciate no one. I'm just going to give you a wide berth. Please no one put sharp instruments in this person's hands. But it's self-identifying. Look, if it weren't for Texas and if it weren't for Florida, we are saving this country. And by the way, I love the competition with Florida. I think it is healthy. When I talk to Florida leaders, I say, you know what? You keep trying to kick Texas's ass. Now you're going to lose. But I want competition. I don't want us to be complacent. I want you to say, all right, we can go even farther to be a better environment for jobs and small businesses and opportunity. We're going to go even farther because you know what? That'll make Texas better. We'll make you better. And together we'll make the whole country better. But complacency is dangerous. Look, you guys all know I'm running for re-election. Everyone says, look, there's no way you can lose. It's Texas, you're a Republican, it's a re-elect.
No, there's a lot of money in Texas.
All right, I want to take y'all back 6 years to my last re-elect. It was the single, by the way, I do have to say, when Beto O'Rourke launched his campaign, the AP, their story said he gave part of his announcement speech in his native tongue. And I couldn't help but respond, that's really cool. I've never heard a speech in Gaelic. But that race, my last re-elect, was at the time the single most expensive Senate race in U.S. history. We were outspent 3-1. And I want you to focus for a moment on what happened. The Democrats more than doubled Democrat turnout in the state of Texas. They drove Democrat turnout from 1.8 million all the way up to 4 million. That had never happened. Now we saw that, we leaned in, a whole lot of people in this room leaned in really hard. And we drove Republican turnout from 2.8 million, we used to have 1 million Delta, from 2.8 million up to 4.2 million. But I won by 0.2. I won by 200,000 votes out of more than 8 million votes cast.
Wow.
2.6% was the margin.
Too low.
That is why Chuck Schumer has made explicit I'm his #1 target in the country. And I'm going to tell you, they're going to spend between $100 million and $150 million this year trying to beat you. Look, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science. If you are a left-wing partisan Democrat, well, A, you're in the wrong room. But if you are, after Donald Trump, there is nobody in the country you want to beat more than me. And so every crazy, wild-eyed leftist in New York City or Chicago or San Francisco, they go online and they give to whoever's running against me. Now, by the way, I'm kind of proud of that. I have to admit, I would be disappointed. If they weren't coming after me, I'd go home and say, all right, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, good job. Good job.
And by the way, y'all all know my dad.
Loving.
If I weren't standing up fighting, he'd whip my ass. And it is a little depressing that between my dad and Heidi, I'm at best third in the family. But look, they are coming after us. And from Chuck Schumer's perspective, he's got to gain 3% in Texas. That's dangerous.
Yep.
That is dangerous. And to flip Texas,
No.
you know what? 5 years ago, you want to understand the magnitude of the threat. Take a look at Georgia and take a look at Arizona. 5 years ago, Georgia and Arizona had 4 Republican senators. Today, Georgia and Arizona have 4 Democrat senators. Why is that? No, not entirely. There is fraud, but there's also something else. You look at Georgia, the bulk of the votes in Georgia are in the suburbs surrounding Atlanta. And suburban voters, particularly suburban women,
Oh man, they're the worst.
have moved away from the Republican Party.
Yeah, they're the worst.
And they ended up deciding they threw 2 Republicans out of office, and they didn't just elect Democrats, they elected wild left-wing Democrats. Raphael Warnock is every bit as liberal
Fake preacher.
as Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren.
We got a problem.
Arizona, same thing. The bulk of the votes in Arizona are the suburbs around Phoenix, Maricopa County. The suburban women in Arizona had the same reaction they did in Georgia. They threw 2 Republicans out, they put 2 Democrats in. You look at Texas, our demographics are almost identical
Yep.
to Georgia and
Feel
Arizona.
it out now.
That's true. You know, Babylon Bee had a great satirical headline. Texas is building a wall on its southern border, consisting of nothing but discarded one-way U-Haul trucks from from California. People think of our state as a rural state, and we got a lot of rural areas, but you know what? Texas is one of the most urban and suburban states in the entire country. We have 4 of the 10 biggest cities in America. There's no other state in America that does.
Wow.
You look at the basic math of a statewide election in Texas, 25% of the votes in Texas are in the Houston media market. 25% of the votes in Texas are in the DFW media market. That's 50, right there. You throw in San Antonio and Austin, you get to about 68, 69%. Our demographics, we've got a lot of the same voters, and I see a ton of Republican women here.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Let me say, we need y'all to talk to your friends, to your neighbors, to your sisters, to your co-workers, to a whole lot of women who in 2018 said, gosh, you know, I don't like Trump's language, I don't like what he says, I don't like this and that. And you know what? Then Joe Biden came in and had open borders, and suddenly they got an MS-13 gangbanger moving into the neighborhood and their kids are at risk. And they got to ask, how much exactly do you dislike mean tweets? But that's why they put a bullseye on Texas. And I'm going to give one other caution, then we're going to open it up to Q&A, but one other caution. Look, this convention has been awesome. I've been to a bunch of conventions. I have never seen the Republican Party as unified as we are right now. I'm doing all these media interviews. These reporters are asking me. The party is so unified. And they stamp their little Marxist feet. And they're so unhappy. And I said, well, that's true. But just make sure you report also on the Democrat convention where they're going nuts and having an absolute civil war.
Yep. And I'm here.
And it's fun to watch. But I'm going to give you a warning right now. Tell you what I'm concerned about. I'm worried that we're all overcoming.
Yes, I think so too.
That we're all saying, hey, this is great, we're going to win, it's going to be a landslide, we're going to win everything, everything's going our way.
Nothing is guaranteed.
And I'll tell you what I believe is going to happen. I think they're going to pull Joe Biden off the ticket.
Yeah, I agree.
And by the way, I predicted that 10 months ago on my podcast. Do you all subscribe to Verdict?
Yeah.
10 months ago. If you don't, you should. Because I do it to give you information to go out and fight when you're talking to your friends and neighbors. But 10 months ago, I predicted it. I right now put the odds at north of 80% that they pull Joe Biden off the ticket. And if they do, I believe they will replace him with one of 2 people. It'll either be Kamala Harris or Michelle Obama. And let me tell you, that is dangerous. And the Democrats you look at this week, where Schumer's gone to Biden and said get out, Pelosi's gone to Biden and said get out, Jeffries has gone to Biden and said get out. The media's turned on him. And you look at what they're going to do. So look, Republicans are going to get a bounce coming out of this convention. I think they know what they're doing. Wait until after the convention. I think as soon as next week, Joe Biden could be out of the race. And let me tell you what's about to happen. All right, let's say it's Kamala. All right, it's easy. A lot of Republicans, oh, great. All right, Kamala, we're really happy. Okay. I want you to envision the $1 billion of free media, where they're going to describe Kamala as the combination of Mother Teresa, Oprah, and Gandhi. All at once. We are going to see $1 billion You're going to hear that laugh so much you're going to wake up at night. Now, we need to win in November. By the way, they're also going to say all the problems with Biden. He's just old. Well, we replaced that. Now we got someone young. All right, now continue with the same disastrous agenda that has hurt Americans. It's a great excuse. Look,
Convenient.
He's had COVID since the start of it.
listen. We need to be aware that this is a fight to save our country. And particularly if they do that, look, I want them to leave Joe Biden in.
I do too.
By the way, it's worth reflecting. Every Democrat knew he was senile.
Yes.
A year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they all knew it. Not a single Democrat is unhappy. Not a single Democrat has spoken up and said, you know, it's not good for the commander-in-chief, the person with the nuclear codes, to be utterly demented. They don't care about that at all. And by the way, to be clear, they would stay unified behind him if they thought he'd win. The only reason they're bailing is the debate. It became indisputable to the American people. This guy is not capable of doing the job. And then they're like suddenly looking at their own rear end and saying, all right, fine, we got to get rid of him. But they just supported him after he was dead. They had a weekend at Bernie's in. Just had a minute.
They did that with Feinstein.
So none of them care. It's pretty close. All right. Go ahead. Let's open up Q&A.
First of all, are you and Senator Kinney related to Kinney and all?
That is a high compliment.